Aljamain Sterling versus Henry Cejudo is in the works for the March pay-per-view card, and also Jingliang versus Jack Della Maddalena is also in the works for the February pay-per-view card in Australia, and some other news as well that I'm going to get to at the end of the video. Let's start straight away with the big one though. Aljamain Sterling confirms that the fight with Henry Cejudo is in the works. We had a rumour about this a couple of days ago from Ali Abdelaziz, but you should only really believe a quarter of what Ali Abdelaziz says, so I didn't really want to make an entire video based on as per Ali Abdelaziz. Cejudo versus Aljo is in the works, but it is. It's in the works. It's not official yet, but it just seems like something on Aljamain Sterling's end. Maybe he wants a little bit more money. He's probably going to negotiate some pay-per-view points for himself because he knows this is going to be on the John Jones and Ngannou card, and if he can get pay-per-view points for himself, I understand why he's trying to negotiate, is all I'm going to say. So this is a great card for him to be on. It's on the March card, and I think this is a really good matchup as well, but I think Aljo's going to win. I'm seeing some people saying stuff like, I hate Cejudo, but he will show everyone that there's levels to this. I think Aljo's got this one, in all honesty. I think people still underrate how good Aljamain Sterling is. Now, I understand his entire career has been a fluke. At least his championship career. He fights Peter Yan in the first fight. He gets a good opening round or two and then starts to get completely destroyed and then basically gets it because Yan makes a mistake and knees him in the face and he milks it for a world championship. He then pulls out of their next fight and makes Yan fight Corey Sandhagen on short notice. Yan gets past Corey Sandhagen, and then you've got Aljamain Sterling in their rematch. The week of the fight, Piotr Yan's entire corner team gets taken out of the fight, and he doesn't have his original corner team in there. Maybe that's the reason why he didn't throw any illegal knees that time, but either way, his entire team gets shaken up last minute, and he has to go out there against Aljo, and still makes it to a split decision, and then TJ Dillashaw shows up with one arm. So it's like, it's a weird one for Aljamain Sterling, because it's hard to give him the credit that he deserves, but I do believe he deserves the credit, and I do believe that Aljamain Sterling is going to beat Henry Cejudo. I think he is. And I understand why he's making some negotiations here. I'm glad that he's actually fighting, because I heard him say something about, you know, I'm not going to come back until June or July of next year and all of this nonsense. But I think this is the best thing for the bantamweight division. And I think it gives the rest of the bantamweight division some time to work things out. And I'm telling you right now, Corey Sandhagen versus Merab Dvalishvili, February Fight Night main event. Let's get that sorted first of all. But second of all, McGregor's coming back, and he's probably going to come back in April. So I'm saying April main event of a pay-per-view. Conor McGregor versus Jorge Masvidal. Co-main event, Sean O'Malley versus Marlon Vera 2. Just take the 1.7 million pay-per-views that will sell. You don't need anything else on the card. O'Malley's name is at a point now. Listen, I still get more live viewers than him on my streams because, you know, that's just how it is on the MMA Guru nowadays. But O'Malley's a pretty big name. You know what I mean? He's just got past Piotr Yan in whatever fashion you think it was. Most of the fans that are fans of O'Malley, they don't really care. They just see that he got the win and they're like, woo, yeah, he won. And now they're going to continue on the bandwagon. But I feel like Sean O'Malley, he's leveled himself up to a level of fanship now. 2.7 million followers on Instagram. Put him versus Marlon Vera 2. An anticipated rematch on the co-main event of a McGregor versus Masvidal card, and everyone's going to be watching that. You can put a selection of other fights on the card as well, like an Ian Gary and an Adrian Yanez maybe, some of the other stars that you want to build up in the other divisions, and that'll be a good one, I reckon. So anyway, back to Aljamain Sterling versus Henry Cejudo. I got lost, but that's good for the bantamweight division that we've got this fight to sort of like give ourselves some time to build an actual top contender in the bantamweight division. And I feel like Aljo's going to beat Henry Cejudo. Listen, if this was Henry Cejudo, a couple of months after he beat Marlon Moraes, then Dominic Cruz, I may have said, like, you know, Henry's got the recipe to do this. Because he does, in style, have the recipe to beat Aljamain Sterling. But there's something to be said about activity here. Aljamain Sterling's on a roll right now, and he's in his prime. And Henry Cejudo, I know he looks about 12... And Pat Barry is shook by this because he sees him looking like he's a 12-year-old and then all of a sudden finds out that Cejudo's 35 years of age. Imagine how sad Pat Barry was when he found out that. Cejudo in reality was 35 years of age. He is 35. He's getting up there, man. And in February, he's going to be 36. He's not a young guy. You know what I mean? He is not a young guy anymore. And Aljamain Sterling is in his prime. I believe Aljo is like 33 years of age right now. Yes, he is. Until July of next year as well. So he's still going to be 33 by the time this fight comes around. And people are going to talk about the wrestling of Henry Cejudo. I truly believe the jiu-jitsu of Aljamain Sterling is enough to negate that. I really do. And I think Aljo's got the wrestling. He's got wrestling as well. And he's very athletic. And he's going to be bigger than Henry Cejudo. And he's going to have a weight advantage over Henry Cejudo as well. Activity advantage. I think he has a hell of a reach advantage. 71 inches of reach for Aljamain Sterling. And I don't even know this officially, but I'm going to check it now. I'm assuming, based on the build of Henry Cejudo, that he's got arms like a fucking T-Rex. Where's Henry Cejudo's reach? 67 and a half for a 5'4" guy. That's not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. But still, Aljo's got that reach advantage over him to work with. And I just think Aljo's going to be able to sort of get the back of Cejudo. And I know people are going to say, well, you know, Cejudo inside tripped Demetrius Johnson. Demetrius Johnson is a very small guy. Who wins in a grappling match, Dominic Cruz or Aljamain Sterling? I know this is a weird one because it was a completely different time when Cruz fought Demetrius Johnson, but there's a reality to size, especially in the lower weight divisions. And I think that Aljo's just going to be too spindly to be able to just sort of like lay on from Henry Cejudo. Henry Cejudo is like, he's a good grappler, but when does he take the back? When does he get mount? When does he pass guard? I watched a video of Cejudo and Demetrius Johnson reacting to the first fight that they had, and Demetrius Johnson was literally saying that he referenced a time in training when he was like trying to urge Henry Cejudo to even try and pass guard because he thinks it would be beneficial for him. And Cejudo was saying, I like to be in full guard and stuff like that. Trust me, you don't want to be in full guard on top against Aljamain Sterling. You ain't safe there. You aren't safe. And you ain't got the ground and pound power, in my opinion, to just blast Aljo out there with ground and pound and TKO him in the early 2 rounds. So I think I can see Cejudo starting pretty well, winning some of the grappling exchanges, winning some of the stand-up exchanges as well, chopping at the legs of Aljamain Sterling. I think he'll devise a really good game plan. But I think eventually we're going to see Aljo take the back. Aljo's going to get the back, I reckon, at some point in this fight. And I think he's going to be a nightmare to get rid of once he gets there because, again, Cejudo's taken a long time away from the game and he got chubby. He clearly wasn't training. He was coaching other fighters. Maybe that could have made him a bit better, but fact is he hasn't been in there since May of 2020, which is a very long time. It's 2 years and a half out of the game, and by the time this fight eventually happens, it'll be nearly 3 years out of the game. And Aljo, since in that time, Aljamain Sterling, if I find him right now, since May of 2020, has beaten Corey Sandhagen, fluked it over Yan. After a weird coach's dropout from Yan, he wins a split decision against Yan in a rematch, flukes it over a one-armed Dillashaw as well. So, like, he's been in there and he's had fights, a lot of them. And he's even had scheduled fights in between then that he's had training camps for. So, I just, I don't see it going well for Henry Cejudo. I think Aljo's improving. His confidence is up there as well. And he can wrestle. Now, we have seen people have some success against Aljamain Sterling in the wrestling before. Most notably, according to my memory, Cody Stamann was actually grappling with him quite well at one point earlier on in his career. But yet still what we saw in that fight is that eventually Cody Stamann couldn't get positional control and Aljo was able to latch him up in some submission positions. Eventually, I believe, getting a Suloev stretch on the same night that Zabit got a Suloev stretch over Brandon Davis. I think O'Malley might have been on that card as well back in the day. It was UFC 228. Oh no, it was the Woodley versus Till card. And yeah, that was the Brandon Davis versus Zabit Magomedsharipov card. And he beat Cody Stamann. Outstruck him. Was, you know, maybe being out positionally wrestled in certain moments. But the jiu-jitsu threat is always there. And Stamann wasn't big enough to get over the top of him and really plant him down on the canvas and just keep him there and wet blanket him. I don't think Cejudo's going to be able to keep Aljo still on the ground. I think he's constantly going to have to be worried about submission positions. And I don't see him finishing Aljo early on. So I'm going to go with Aljo winning the fight by 48-47 unanimous decision based on the last 3 rounds. Maybe 49-46 when he wins the second round. But no matter what, I think he loses the first. But I think as the fight goes on, we'll see Aljo start doing his thing, getting positional control, and start winning the fight based on that. We move on to another story that came out, which is, oh my god, 10 minutes on that. The Leech versus JDM. Jack Della Maddalena versus Li Jingliang. Very big news. Very, very big news. Li Jingliang's a savage for taking these types of fights. I actually said this fight was going to happen, and I'm going to tell you why this fight is going to happen, because people are just saying, like, you know, why are they doing this to the Leech? Always doing this for the Leech. This is what all fighters should do. I know he should have beaten D-Rod, but you technically lose a fight in the rankings. You take on an unranked guy on the come-up. Like, we always complain, and I complain about lightweight contenders at the top of the division not doing this for their division on the come-up and actually taking other fights. But then we're like, why are they doing this? And complaining about it when they actually do respect the order of the division. This is what should be done, and more specifically, geographically. This makes sense. Li Jingliang is from China. I don't know if you guys know your geography, but China is, from anywhere in the world, a lot closer to Australia than other countries, is all I'm going to say. So this makes sense, bringing some Chinese fans over. You know what I mean? It just makes sense for Li Jingliang if he wants to train in China for this fight. He's not going to have to fly all the way across the Atlantic or anything like that. Or, sorry, the Pacific. The Atlantic is the UK to America, so the Pacific Ocean, he doesn't have to fly all the way across there. It's still going to be a long flight, don't get me wrong, but still, it's geographically makes a bit sense to get the Chinese guy to fight in Australia and Oceania. Oceania and Asia are connecting, continents. So, I think it makes sense to do. Let's make it happen. And I think this is a good matchup as well. I think it's a dangerous matchup for Jack Della Maddalena, because this is a big step up for him, a massive step up compared to Danny Roberts and what's his name? Ramazan Emeev as well. This is a massive step up for Jack Della Maddalena. But if he wins it, he's Gucci. Like, he's going to be really doing well against these other welterweights. I would have liked to have seen him take on another grappler maybe, or someone who at least is going to try and grapple against him. But I like this even more because I know it's going to be a firefight in the first round, and if you're firefighting with Li Jingliang in the first round, someone's getting knocked out. So I'm glad that whoever wins this will win it in very impressive fashion. And I think this is a good jump, because I saw some people saying stuff like, you know, let's do him versus Michael Chiesa, or let's do him versus Mikel Pereira and all this stuff. But let's give him a fight just outside the rankings first. And if he wins this one, then he can start looking towards the rankings of the welterweight division. And I'm just glad that Jack Della Maddalena is staying active as well. Back in 2 months' time, he really ain't messing around in his rise in the welterweight division. And I'm glad that Li Jingliang's back in there as well, because at the end of the day, I believe Li Jingliang is 34 years of age, not getting any younger. He's going to be 35 in March. This will be while he's 34, just before he turns 35, this fight. Not getting any younger. If he wants to bounce back, this is how you do it against a respectable up-and-coming name, and then he can start looking at ranked opponents again. I do believe that Jack Della Maddalena will win this one. I just see it. I see Jack Della Maddalena just being a bit too much for him, maybe hurting him with some body shots. There's just something to be said about the rise of Jack Della Maddalena. He's making them so easy. And maybe he's one of those guys where he's going to make everyone look easy until that one guy that doesn't look so easy, like Chimaev did against Gilbert Burns, but at a bit of a lower level here against Li Jingliang. But I think he's on the rise. 26 years of age. The amount this guy is going to be improving fight to fight, and the amount of confidence he's going to gain as well. He just looks in control. I just know, listen, I think Li Jingliang would finish Danny Roberts by KO, but it would be messy, I think. I would maybe pick him to beat Ramazan Emeev in their fight. It might be a decision. It might be messy. He might get it later on like he did against Muslim Salikov. I don't think he just goes out there and makes him look like an idiot and finishes him easily in the first round. That's what Jack Della Maddalena's doing, so I reckon he wins this one, and then it's on to ranked opponents afterwards. Respect to Li Jingliang for taking this fight. Honestly, more contenders take note of what Li Jingliang's doing. He ain't holding up the division. He ain't being a drama queen. He's just getting right back in there, trying to make something happen. So I'm really looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it. Now let's get Mikel Pereira fight up the rankings. What's going on with the rest of the division? Brazil card, January. Luque versus Pereira. Hello? What we doing here, UFC? The rest of these guys need matchups. And I ain't seeing the matchups. Give D-Rod to maybe like a... Who else is up and coming in the welterweight division right now? We need to start making more matchups at welterweight because we're getting a bit of a drought outside of the top contenders. And we need to figure out who's going to take over once these top contenders are done. So let's do Mikel Pereira versus Vicente Luque. Let's do Michael Chiesa versus D-Rod maybe. That makes some level of sense. See how D-Rod's grappling is going to improve. Let's maybe do Ian Gary versus Alex Morono. I want to see Chaos Williams versus Jeremiah Wells. Sign me up for that because someone's getting knocked out cold. And yeah, stop giving Brian Barberena everyone. Like, Brian Barberena's getting every good matchup at welterweight and no one else is. We got to move these up and comers up a little bit. Who else is on the come up right now? That's about it, really. Oh, the winner of Michael Morales versus Rinat Fakhretinov, especially if it's Michael Morales because he's actually put together more wins in the UFC. I believe he is 2-0 in the UFC now. If he wins this will be a great 3-0 start. Put him against maybe the winner of Nico Price versus Phil Rowe. Maybe put him against, if Jake Matthews beats Semmelsberger, maybe put him against Randy Brown. But then again, even Randy Brown's on a 4-fight win streak. He needs to move up the division. So there's a bunch of things they can do. We'll see how it goes. Like and subscribe. Other news that's come up, though, you might want me to brush up on. Someone made a clip of my take on the whole Oliveira situation. I don't even think this is true. And some people have said that this is lost in translation. How on earth were the UFC even expecting him to take that fight in January against Makhachev? That is the most stupid thing. Take some time off. He got dropped in October. He should not be back in the cage in January fighting Islam Makhachev again. It makes no sense whatsoever. So, yeah, it just makes zero sense. Other than that, though, all UFC betting has been banned in Ontario, Canada. So, that's crazy. That's crazy. James Krause is genuinely causing some problems. With UFC betting. And honestly, for the UFC, even if they don't think James Krause has done anything, they might just ban him from the sport anyway. And just make sure that he's not anything to do with the UFC because they care about people being able to bet on their sport. Also, I want to mention this, though. Canada sucks showed. I'm not even going to get into the political reasons why, but we know why. You know what I'm saying? Castro's son. Wonder what way he's going to steer the country. Either way, just another freedom gone for Canada. Stay strong, America. They now can't bet on sports. Canada turning slowly more into the UK and the rest of the Europe superpowers. And your rights will be taken, including your right to bet now, apparently, as well. Even though you can bet on other stuff. You don't think in the NFL and NBA there's people that know a little thing about someone being injured? It was a bit silly to me. James Krause messed it all up. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle Pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.